It's time for Fluent and Chill. I'm Fluent. He's Chill. Jay, how you doing, man?
You know what time it is, Tone. NCAA Tournament. Oh, man. My MVP pick is getting hotter. So I'm really excited about pro basketball right now because I said it, Tone, and I'm standing on it. The league MVP is Giannis Antetokounmpo's to lose, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
He looks pretty good, although there was a good matchup between Joel Embiid and Jokic, the other two MVP candidates. It's the return of the big man, by the way, because we're only talking about three guys, and they're all bigs. That being said, you brought up March Madness is upon us. We're going to talk. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to list out the number one seeds. Tell me if one kind of stands out to you. I'm going to list out the number two seeds. Tell me if one sticks out to you. I'm going to list out the number three seeds. And then in the fastest game of bracketology you've ever seen, I am going to read out each matchup, and we're going to make our picks for every single game like this. Bam, bam, bam. This will be lightning round. And then because we're going to dive a little deeper as the rounds kind of progress. But we're going to go through a lightning round of bracketology. Then it's become the people's favorite.
It's a phenomenon now.
I didn't know how big NBA Versus was going to be. This week, Luka Doncic against my man, Irvin Magic Johnson. If you haven't caught on Crave, at least I get it on Crave. I think it's on HBO. The story of the rise of the Lakers. 2 episodes in. Ooh, it's good. Ooh, it's good. There we got my guy. I'll say this. I don't know if he's he's like 1A, 1B, because Giannis is my favorite player in the NBA today. But Ja Morant, I got so much like hype and respect and love for Ja Morant. Ja Morant's going to go up against AI.
And just so you know, there's a reason why, and for the folks at home, there's a reason why Tone has a thing for Giannis. Not to mention the fact that he's an awesome basketball player. There's a reason why. I'll let Tone mention that to you.
Hey.
There's some lineage going on.
He was born in my motherland, right? So my dad kind of. It kind of. Listen, man, I got to be honest. I speak Greek. I've lived in Greece.
Yes.
When I hear him talk, I stop talking. I'm like, damn, he's way better than I am. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
All right, and then we got Trey Young versus Isiah Thomas. It's gonna be a good matchup. And then Mail Drop's gonna be good too. We got some stuff. We got something that's gonna get. Actually, we have 2 topics. I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna warn you ahead of time. I'm gonna get really heated about because I'm very passionate about the last 2 questions, or at least the answers to the last 2 questions, because they got me upset. But we got a lot of NCAA to talk about. So let's go through. I'm gonna start with the number 1 seeds. I'm just gonna read out the number 1 seeds.
Okay. And
then I want to get your take on them. So we've got, probably no surprise, Gonzaga, who has been a powerhouse. I think they've been in the Final Four, like 3 out of the last 6 years, or 3. They've been on fire. So we got Gonzaga as the number 1 seed. We have Arizona. Man, we thought Arizona was done with, they had that whole kind of thing going on with violations and everything. When I lived in Tucson, let me tell you, the city or the town, whatever, of Tucson, they love their Wildcats.
Yeah.
When I lived there was about 1 million people. It was right after Richard Jefferson left. I think I was in that gap. I want to say, because it was kind of early 2000s. I think he had left, and Lute Olson was still coaching. But I mean, when I tell you that town was in love with its Wildcats, it was crazy. So we got the Arizona Wildcats, we got the Baylor Bears, and just go ahead and rock, chalk, Jayhawk. If I may give a little Kansas Jayhawk trivia quickly, and then I'll get your opinion on those number 1 seeds. In the history of Kansas basketball, let's see if you remember, because I think I've actually told you this before. In the history of Kansas basketball, who was the only coach, and there's only one in their history, to have a losing record?
Fog Allen.
Incorrect.
I don't think it was Roy Williams.
No, it was not Roy Williams.
It was not Roy Williams. Wasn't Fog Allen. Of course it wasn't Fog Allen. He had Chamberlain. What am I talking about? I'm stumped, huh?
I'll give you a hint. The hint's going to give it away. He invented basketball.
Are you kidding me?
James Naismith, who invented basketball, who also was the coach of Kansas basketball,
right.
The only coach in Kansas history with a losing record. So apparently inventing the game doesn't give you a leg up in coaching the game, apparently.
It does not. It does not translate.
So when I say those 4 number 1 seeds, is there one that kind of stands out to you, those number 1 seeds?
I was surprised with both Kansas and Baylor being from the same league, and it's not unusual for 2 leagues to have a number 1 seed. I mean, when we was coming up, North Carolina and Duke used to be number 1 seeds all the time. But I was actually surprised with Kansas and Baylor because, Baylor lost a lot considering that they were the defending national champs. That their coach, he's a really good coach. And I look at that crew, and I wasn't sure that they were a number 1 seed. I thought that they were a great team, but I wasn't sure if they were a number 1 seed. I knew that Gonzaga was. I wasn't sure if Arizona was neither, because I look at the other teams that you're going to run down. I just wasn't sure that Arizona was a number 1 seed neither.
If there's one of those number 1 seeds that a Cinderella team is going to upset, you have to pick one of those 4. Who do you think's the one that loses?
Arizona. Because I think the Big 12 is the toughest league in the country. And the Big 12 in football terms, Tone, is what the AFC North was 10 years ago with Baltimore beating up on Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. That's what that league, that's what the Big 12 is. And they have some of the best teams. And I think the Big 12 got 7 teams in the tournament this year. So, yeah, something like that.
All right. Well, let's hope not for my I still got a lot of friends there in Tucson. I'm rooting for you guys. All right, the number 2 seeds, we got Auburn, Duke. My fate. Listen, I always tell stories about my time in summer league at the University of Kentucky with your former teammate Roderick Rhodes and Tony Delk and Rex Chapman and Kenny Skywalker and Jamal Mashburn. Like, those days were fun. So I loved my time in Lexington. So I have a soft spot for this team as well. So Kentucky. It's interesting. Can I pause for a second and say we talk about Steph Curry and Mike D'Antoni and Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich and how those guys and analytics collectively kind of created this 3-ball revolution in the NBA. Do you know who had everybody on the court, including centers, shooting threes in the 90s?
Rick Pitino did.
Rick Pitino did, because you know how I know? Because he said, "Why are you shooting mid-range jumpers?" And I said, "I don't know, because that's what my coach has me shooting." And he goes, "Take a couple steps back, buddy." Is exactly how he said it. And learn to shoot threes. And I'm like, okay. And that's how I learned to shoot threes, is because he told me he wouldn't let me shoot inside the 3-point line.
Rod told me, "Yo, Jay, there were games where I would knock down a 21-footer, and he would take me out the game because I didn't take one step back. Let's go. For you to knock that down, take a half a step back, and you could knock down the 3. Absolutely, Rick Pitino, 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, he was way ahead of his time. He had Mashburn shooting the 3. He had Antoine Walker shooting the 3.
Antoine Walker made a career.
Yes.
Shooting threes, and
he's
absolutely 6'10", 6'9", like that's a big man.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. He had all of those guys. Walter McCarty, he had him shooting the 3-ball. He had all of those guys shooting the long ball. Absolutely. Rick Pitino was before his time with that. Now all of a sudden, if you were big and you're not shooting the 3, you can't play. But Rick Pitino was doing that 30 years ago.
Yeah. We don't give him enough love because I'm pretty sure people were watching. Listen, people don't realize they think it's NBA back. It's not. The college games does stuff in both football and basketball. And then the NBA and NFL decide, oh, let me see if I can incorporate this. Let me see if this works. Some things work, some things don't. Like, remember we saw the Wildcat became huge for a year or two, and in the NFL, and then the defense were like, nah, we're not falling for that anymore. And it's out. We still see a little bit of it.
We still see a little bit of it.
From college.
From college. Yes, sir.
All right, so we got Kentucky and Villanova. Those are your number 2 seeds. Is there any big surprise on your 2 seeds?
That's the one right there, Tony. I thought Villanova was a 1 seed. When I looked at Arizona, I thought that Villanova was a 1 seed. I remember just this weekend, I thought that the Villanova-UConn winner was going to win the Big East tournament, and if Villanova won it, that would wrap up a 1 seed because they were the best team or the second best team in the Big East the entire season. No question about it. There were a lot of great teams in the Big East, but they were at the top of the Big East the entire season. And I thought if they won the Big East tournament, there was no question that they would end up with the number 1 seed. And I was surprised that Arizona ended up with the number 1 seed over them.
So you would flip Arizona and Villanova?
Yes, I would.
And not Baylor, right? Even though
No.
Baylor, you said questionable. Okay. Do you think Baylor got a 1 seed too just because they're the defending champs? Do you think you get a little love?
No, they did. They did tie for first in the Big 12.
Okay.
It wasn't like they just had a good team. We're talking about the defending national champs who are at the top of the Big 12. So they still are that team.
All right. 3 seeds. We got Purdue. Do you remember? Sorry, I know it tells stories to this, but it's fun. Do you remember Michael Jordan? Will Purdue he's on the Bulls, and after practice he says, I'm not calling you Purdue anymore because they're too good.
I'm not calling you Purdue anymore.
I'm not calling you Purdue anymore. You're like Villanova. Like at the time, it's funny that Villanova's a 2 seed now, but back then it's like I'm calling you like Villanova or something because Purdue's too good for you.
You can't be called that.
All right, so Purdue's a 2 seed. Tennessee Volunteers.
They've had a good team, Tone. Tennessee got a real good team, and then
I'm just seeing teams that are traditionally like football schools, not traditional basketball schools, being 2-3 seeds. It's good to see.
And Tennessee got a good team. They got a real good team. I think they got a couple of pros on their team too, Tone. They do. The SEC tournament was a nightmare. It just was to see like they beat Texas A&M beat Tennessee, and everybody talks about how Texas A&M got snubbed. Well, they didn't get snubbed. They lost 8 straight games that year. So I mean, you're not a tournament team when you lose almost 10 straight games.
That's too many. Then you got Texas Tech and the Wisconsin Badgers. So, of those 3 seeds, is there any of those or do you think they're all that made sense? They're all 3 seeds.
I think they
should be up down.
I think that they're good with Texas Tech, but Texas Tech is going to surprise some people, Tone. I can tell you that. That coach at Texas Tech, he coaches for the lack of a better term, he coaches ass off, Tone. He know the game. Those guys run through a wall for him. And every game that they've played this season, they've been in it. I haven't seen them get smoked at all. I mean, they've lost some games, but I have not seen them get smoked. So I'm actually digging them. I'm digging. Watch out for Texas Tech.
We've had multiple conversations, right? Specifically about the Lakers coach. But what's the coach's job? It's not just necessarily X's and O's, because that might be assistant coaches that do that. It's to keep you motivated, playing hard, and putting you in a position to win or to be competitive. He's got that. So okay. So those are the 1, 2, 3 seeds. The reason we're stopping there is there's 64 teams, and we 68. Can't go through 68 teams, right? I'm so used to my old school. 68 teams. We can't go through all of everybody, but like I said, as the rounds go through, we're going to talk about the winners and losers, why they won, why they lost, who to look for kind of in the upcoming rounds. And I think we're going to also dive into, as the weeks of the tournament go on, some of the players to look out for, because why do we watch college ball? 1, because it's exciting. 2, because those are our future NBA stars that you want to get to know a little bit early. And for those that, have a team maybe that can be drafting high this season, want to know
this might be your guy,
who they're getting and why, right? Because there's always surprises. I've said this a million times. My rookie of the year is still Scotty Barnes, and everybody had Toronto picking Suggs, and they were like, "You're crazy. You pick." Well, you know what? For those that were watching Scotty Barnes, kind of beforehand, they were like, "No, that was actually a good pick for the style of play that these guys play." So we're going to talk about that. All right. So here's the rapid fire. All right, we ready? Okay, get stretched. I'm going to say the team. You make your pick. I make my pick. Boom. Next game, and then we're going to post it.
Yep.
All right. Gonzaga, Georgia State.
Gonzaga.
I think we're both. I don't think anyone's going to get. I just so you know, I'm filling out the bracket with my pick, and then I'll fill out the one with yours, and then we'll post it. Boise State, Memphis. I'm also on Memphis. I almost always pick the 9 against the 8 seed. That's the one game I always feel like the lower ranked team. They're so close. Yeah. All right. UConn, New Mexico State.
UConn
as well. Unless I disagree, I'll say. All right. Arkansas, Vermont.
Man, I love Vermont, but Arkansas is going to beat them. They're going to be too much at the end.
Alabama, Rutgers.
Alabama.
Your team, Texas Tech, Montana State.
Texas Tech.
I'm with you. All right, I think we're going to disagree here. Michigan State, Davidson.
Michigan State.
I'm going with the upset.
Uh-oh.
I'm going with Steph's old squad.
Yeah.
In an upset over Michigan State. Sorry, Magic, you're my guy, but I'm picking against your Spartans.
Mm-hmm.
Duke, SCU, Fullerton.
Duke.
Baylor, Norfolk State.
Baylor.
North Carolina, Marquette. Isn't that the Jordan versus Wade matchup?
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina, Marquette.
I'm going to take Marquette in that matchup.
No, you're not.
I am going to take Marquette. I dig Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart know the game, and Shaka Smart get his guys to play. I'm taking Marquette in that matchup.
I cannot pick against North Carolina because as a, want to say 6-year-old, I was draped in that baby blue every second of every day. So I'm sticking with North Carolina.
It don't help, folks, that Jordan went there too. So let's make sure we clear on that.
You want to hear something? You actually want to hear something funny? That had more to do because Jordan, I think, was a freshman. It had more to do with Worthy. It was more. I was more of a Worthy, and then it turned into Jordan, and then it was like, oh, then he went to the Bulls, and I'm a Laker fan, so it was Worthy. So that was like back to Worthy and Magic. So
I love big game James.
I love James Worthy. I still don't think people talk enough about James Worthy, but that's conversation for another day. This is the lightning round. St. Mary's versus Wyoming.
Wyoming got a good team. And they
this is the play-in. I think these are the play. I'm giving you playing games where there's two teams.
St. Mary's is not a play-in. I'm pretty sure.
No. Wyoming is against IU, but I'm just picking one of the playing games. But I don't think either one of us is picking one of the play-in winners, right? I don't think, unless no. Okay.
If you want to, I got no problem with that. But St. Mary's got a good team. They've been in fights with Gonzaga.
Yeah, because I think what I said Rutgers was Rutgers, Notre Dame or something, or North Dakota. I don't even know.
Dakota State.
Yes. All right, UCLA, my Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Toby Bailey and the O'Bannon brothers. UCLA and I should shout out to Stuart Hart, my old high school teammate who's the strength and conditioning coach at UCLA. Give him a shout out. UCLA versus Akron.
I'm gonna take UCLA.
I'm going with my Bruins as well. All right, Texas. I should have gone there. Virginia Tech.
Texas.
Purdue, Yale.
Hey, Tone, watch out. I'll just get ready to tell you, Tone, watch out for Yale. They got a real good point guard and they got a good big man. So watch out for Yale. I think that Purdue could outlast them at the end, but I think that their problem is with their point guard. So I think Purdue outlasts them at the end. But watch out for Yale. Yale gonna be a problem.
That's why I started to say Yale, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm actually gonna. I was teetering. I think you pushed me over the edge. I'm taking Yale in the upset. Okay. They're gonna outsmart them. Murray State, San Francisco.
Murray State. I mean, I think at one point they was riding like an 18-game winning streak, something nuts like that. Yeah, I think they beat San Francisco.
Kentucky, St. Peter's. You know,
Shaheen Holloway. Of course you are. Shaheen Holloway's done a great job with that St. Peter's team, and he's got a bunch of seniors. It's gonna be a closer game than you think, Tone. But I think Kentucky outlasts them. But it's gonna be closer than you think.
Okay. Arizona's gonna play. All the number one seeds are gonna play the winner of a playing game. Are you picking Arizona to get upset in our first round?
No, I'm not.
Okay. We're gonna stick with Arizona as well. All right, Seton Hall. Man, I remember always talking about Seton Hall in the early 90s. Seton Hall versus TCU.
I'm gonna take Seton Hall.
I'm going to go with that one too. My good friend, Coach Cam. I got a lot of friends in here. Coach Cam, his University of Houston going up against UAB.
I'm going to take Houston. They got a good team down in Houston too, Tom. They got a real good team down there, man.
I'm late. I'm overdue on a visit, so I got to get down to Houston and check all my people out. But all right, Illinois Chattanooga. I just like saying Chattanooga. I want Chattanooga to have a deep run just because I like Chattanooga.
Well, Illinois, they got that big guy Cockburn down there. He's awesome. So
you got Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
People have been asking. I'm going to take I know we're in a lightning round, but I will say people have been asking what song is that in the background of Eddie Oldhead's posts. Everybody knows Eddie Oldhead. I hope by this point it's the Chattanooga Choo Choo. That's what the song is playing in the background is the Chattanooga Choo Choo for those that were asking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Colorado State, Michigan.
I think Michigan has been in a bit of a disarray. I'm taking Colorado State, Tony. I'm going with the upset.
Colorado State's a favorite. There's 16. Okay, Michigan's 11.
I'm taking Colorado State.
It's weird to see Michigan at as 11. That's weird. All right. Tennessee, Longwood.
Tennessee. Longwood got a good team, and they basically plowed through that league that they played, but I think Tennessee handles them.
Ohio State, Loyola, Chicago.
This one I'm going with the upset, Tone. Loyola Chicago beats them.
You read my mind, but my reason is very different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing a board game with some friends called Scattergories.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you play that game. You roll the dice, it tells you a letter, and then there's a bunch of categories. So the letter was L,
mm-hmm.
and it was a school or college or university. And I was like, Loyola. It was like the first thing that popped into my head was Loyola. So that's why I'm picking them. I don't know. Maybe it's a sign. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Villanova, Delaware.
I'll take Villanova.
Yeah.
I think Villanova can make a Final Four run.
Kansas is going to play again the winner of a playing game between I think it's Texas Southern and TCC. Again, I'm going with I don't think any of the playing games personally are going to win, but am I crazy?
No, they're not.
Getting upset? Okay.
No, they're not. I don't think so.
San Diego State, Creighton.
I'm going to take Creighton, even though San Diego State got a great team. And that Mountain West Conference is a very tough league, but I'm going to take Creighton in this particular situation.
I'm going to take San Diego State.
Okay.
And give shout-outs to Kawhi Leonard.
That's why he's taking San Diego State, folks. Leonard is his guy, okay? I was going to say something. But I was going to let him say it because Leonard is his guy. I love Leonard, too.
I love Leonard.
I love Leonard. Leonard's my guy, too. I dig him.
I wish he just was healthy and played more, but other than that, I love Leonard.
Yeah.
You know what I like about Leonard? He plays, man. There's no stuff. It's just he plays basketball. I'm still a fan of that. All right, Iowa, Richmond. Richmond.
I'll take Iowa. Richmond got a good team, but I'll take Iowa.
I'm in Richmond Hill, so I probably should take Richmond, but I won't. I'm going to take Iowa as well.
Mm-hmm.
Providence, South Dakota State.
Just like I told you, Tone, about Villanova making a Final Four run, Providence could be in the Final Four this year. They got a great team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Providence. You heard it here first. Hot take, Providence in the Final Four. LSU, Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Really?
That LSU team, they in this ready to just fired their coach, and they got a whole bunch of nonsense going on there.
You don't think that might bring them together? Like
it could. World? It very well could, but it could also rip them apart too, because a lot of those guys are Wade guys, and it could absolutely rip them apart. So,
all right, Wisconsin, Colgate. I have such a hard time with Colgate. I just think of my toothpaste all the time.
I'm going Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, the Badges.
Mm-hmm.
USC versus the U.
USC is a team that I think is going to be in the Sweet 16. So I'm going to go with USC. They got a good team. They got a real good team.
I am a fan of the Trojans. Here we go. The last one. I can't believe we made it through it. Look at that.
Yeah.
Auburn. And next, like, again, then we're going to make the next round next time around. Auburn, Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State.
Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State. Auburn is a team that I thought was going to get a number one seed. I really did, but they had some losses late that kind of tripped them up in the SEC tournament. But also, Auburn is a team that I can see in the Elite Eight, even going to the Final Four. They got a good team, Tom.
All right, I'm with you on Auburn. So we got Auburn. So there's the picks, the entire first round. Some upsets. No play-in game winners are going to upset their number one seed opponents, and at least in ours. So let us know, were we right? Were we wrong? who we crazy about in the comments, who your picks are, because now we're jumping from the amateur game to the pro game, and we're going to do a little versus. So we're going to start off. Number one is going to be Luka Doncic versus my favorite player growing up, Magic. So let's kind of go. Do we want to do the tail of the tape, or do you want to jump right in?
We can jump right in, Tom.
All right, let's jump right in. I think let's start Luka Doncic. Let's start with the current player.
Right. So
Luka does everything great, right?
Right. So I've mentioned this to you in the past, Tone. Magic retired in 1991. Magic didn't retire for me in 1995, 96. That was a shell of Magic. The Magic that I remember retired in 1991. That was over 30 years ago, Tone, and I got to keep reminding you that it was 30 years ago, 1990. I know it don't sound like it. I know it sounds nuts.
1990 was 30. Yeah, it was 30 years ago.
It was 30 years ago. I know that sounds nuts.
I want it to be 10 because then I could be the.
Yeah, it's still 30 years ago. Now, am I going to say, I can't sit here, Tone, and tell you that over the next 20 years that there's nobody that's going to be better than Magic. That would be 50 years, Tone. That's like somebody walking around. That's like Eddie Oldhead still telling us that Bob Cousy is the best point guard to ever play in the NBA. There's no way you're going to tell me, Bob. There's no way you're going to tell me, Eddie, that over the last 60 years you haven't seen anybody better than Bob Cousy. Well, I feel the same way about Magic. So in the next 20 years, I can't say with 100% certainty that I ain't going to see nobody better than Magic. Now, I don't think Luka's got the impact on the game like Magic had, but when you talk about numbers, when you talk about his game, how he plays, I think that he could be in. I don't know if he could be better than Magic, but the fact that we talking about him, a big guard at 6'8", right? Be able to handle the basketball, play make. He's not as charismatic as Magic. He's not as flash as Magic, right? I don't think he's the athlete that Magic is.
I was going to say, is he even as athletic as Magic?
He's not. Right? I don't think he's the athlete that Magic is. I think he shoots the long ball better than Magic. I don't think he's a better finisher than Magic. He's not better at the stripe than Magic. I don't think he's smart as Magic. But he's also only in year 4.
Right.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Tone, by year 4, I would be Magic at 22 years old. He was already Finals MVP twice by year 4. I mean, Luka has yet to get out of the first round. Now, it does help Magic that, he did have Jabbar on his team. So that Jabbar and Jamal Wilkes. Right. But with that being said, if I had to pick between the two, for me, it's Magic.
So here's what we do with all our verses. So who would win in a one-on-one, and who would you pick to start your team? So let's stick with that. So who would you pick in a one-on-one matchup?
It's completely different because Luka, I think, is a better one-on-one player than Magic. Even though Magic is an awesome scorer, I think Luka is a better one-on-one player than Magic. But if I'm starting my unit, it's Magic.
Right. So it's interesting because people want to look at stats and they'll be like, well, Luka is averaging more points, more rebounds, nowhere near the assists. I don't think anyone's going to match, Magic's 11 plus assists per game. Like you say, there won't be anyone better than Magic. I don't know that we see that though. Again, even though scoring is up. So,
and by the way, Tone, that's not for a season. I'm talking about for his entire career.
His entire career.
On a Tuesday, he's 11 assists. Pencil him in on a Tuesday night.
Even and that's including after coming back after years of being out of the game and coming back in, which no one takes a few years off and then comes back and is as good, right? So all of their career numbers just go down, right? Like whether it be Magic, Jordan, whoever it is, their numbers always go down. So that being said, if it's influence on the game, it's not even close. And I actually just said this yesterday because I was saying when you talk about who influenced the game of basketball the most, the question was about Bird, and I said, well, you have to put Bird and Magic together. I don't care where you rank them, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think they can't be out of the top 5 because you have to remember there would be no Jordan, no LeBron, no Kobe, no Luka. None of these guys would exist because if it wasn't for Bird and Magic coming in, and that the NBA was on the verge of bankruptcy. The TV ratings for tennis and bowling were higher than the NBA. That's insane. Okay, so these guys, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about player. So when I look at the player on the court, Magic is a bigger, more athletic, very much more kind of that team guy that's going to lead your team. I know leadership is a tough thing to measure, but I think he also came into a better situation than Luka. Let's be honest. I've said this a million times. That Mavericks, they did Luka a disservice.
Is he more skilled than Luka?
So that's where we're going to go. That's where I was going to go next.
Okay.
Is that so from a team perspective, Magic and the Lakers came into it. Bus just took over the Lakers. He wanted to make it a winner. They had Kareem, right? They had players. Luka comes into what I've said is a roster was not built for him to lead successfully anywhere. That being said, he also played professional basketball in Europe. So I'm not surprised that his year 1, 2, 3, his numbers are good. But I think this is his peak. I don't think we're going to see anything better from Luka over the next 3-4 years. I think this is what we're going to get, which is great though, right? What is he, 26, 8 and 8?
I think he's 20, 27, 8.
Yeah, I think it's 26.2, I think is a career, right? It's the first year. But still 26, 8 and 8. I'm not complaining about that. From a skill set, well, who's the better ball handler? Probably Luka. Who's the better passer? Magic. And I don't think anyone's going to surpass Magic in terms of passing. Who's the better shooter? Well, shooter's interesting because Magic came into the league. He wasn't a shooter. 3-ball, he was like 30%. Luka's 33%. In comparison, I always say, like, if you're comparing them head to head, you're going to say, well, Luka's better because he's 33 and Magic is 30. But if I look at the times that they played, well, Magic was 30% when the league was 28%. Luka's 33% when the league is 35. So Magic was actually above league average. Luka's below league average. But head to head, Luka is, in a time that it's more important, he has a better shooting, 3-point shooting. Magic actually, surprisingly, is the better. I'm actually really surprised by how good Magic is, like mid 80s in terms of his free throw percentage. I think one season he hit 90% of his threes.
Yes.
Free throws, excuse me. So from a skill perspective, I say it's really, really close.
Now, with that being said, though, Tone, when you look at Magic had a money mid-range game, but you don't really recognize it. And the reason why is because they played so fast. But when the game slowed down,
when it slowed down, he would post you up. He would hook shots from the free throw line, right?
Magic had a money mid-range game. Magic could score it from 13, 15 feet, especially in transition or even in the half court. Now, when you talk about being a ball handler, I mean, how much, just because you throw it behind your back a couple of times or throw it between your legs, I mean, I can do that too, but especially at that size, to be able to pass the ball and handle the ball like he's done, I absolutely have to go with Magic in that aspect, right? Now, when you talk about what you just got finished talking about, Tone, when we get into the meat and potatoes of the game, my primary ball handler not only has to be smart, I have to count on him to go to the stripe and knock down free throws. Magic, for his career, is over an 85% free throw shooter, right? I look at Luka. I think Luka shot 60 last year. I think he barely shot 60 last year, which means I can't count on you in the meat and potatoes of the game to go to the stripe and ice games. And if I can't do that, then I can't have you on the floor. Not necessarily have you on the floor, but it's hard for me.
No, but it's hard.
It's hard for me to keep
in your hands.
Yes, it's hard for me to do that.
Foul you, and you're shooting. I think for a career 70, low 70, 73%.
He had a stretch last year, Tony, where he was barely 60%.
Yeah,
barely.
And again, now that might be right. He's still young, so that maybe that part of his game does get better. Maybe. But typically,
here's the thing, Tone, and you and I had this conversation before. I've always felt like, because we're in year 4 with Luka, right? So by next year, this is who Luka is. No matter what you guys see after that, by next year, you can guarantee that that's who Luka is going to be. You can bet on it. And
the funny thing is, I think once Luka gets some better teammates too, I think his assists might go up a little bit, but I think his scoring comes down a little bit too. But either that being said, I can't. It's I do this, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I compare you to your era, right? So when I say is the worst player in the NBA compared to his era better or worse to the average player than the worst player in the NBA to their average player. And just look, you went from 100 players to 500 players. So the worst player out of 500 is further away from the average player than the 100th player is, again, to era, not head to head. So that being said, to answer the question, go ahead.
Quick side note, Tone. Are we underrating the job that the bad job that the Dallas Mavericks are doing building around Luka? Are we underrated?
I'm not. I've said since Luka came in, they're doing him a disservice. Their roster, I think, stinks. And there's look, people bring up, well, they brought in Porzingis and they thought this would happen. Brunson's doing well, and yeah, that's not a championship roster.
It's not, yo. You got a franchise
player. It's not
player.
a championship roster. You have a franchise player. You have a top 5 player in the NBA.
Yeah, you do.
Right, who I just finished saying averages 26, 8, and 8.
You do.
You got nothing around him.
Yeah.
Like, just think about here's my thing always. If you take the best player off the team, everybody healthy, is that team a team that can go into the playoffs?
Dallas goes to the bottom of the Western Conference. You take Luka off.
Then that's not a good enough roster for your star player. Like, I'm not saying when your player leaves and 10 other players leaves. I'm saying just you take that player off the team. Do they still make the playoffs? And if the answer is no, or they don't make a deep run, then that's not a good enough roster. Then you've done your star player a disservice. There's examples where players have taken bad rosters deep into the finals. And LeBron James, obviously, we talked about in 07. But that's shame on the franchise. Shame on the franchise. So no, I'm not under. I think some people might be, but I am not. I've said it a million times. I think the rosters are the rosters. The Mavs roster is killing Luka's career. So that being said, let me answer the question. 1-on-1, I am going with Luka because I think Luka's more of a scorer. I think what made Magic great wasn't his scoring. Obviously, it was his passing. So if I'm starting a franchise, I'm starting it with. I'm with Dr. Buss. It's Magic, and he's my point guard. Like, when I'm starting a franchise, that's it. I'll figure out the rest around him, but I know I got a guy who can lead. I know a guy who can score if he has to. People always forget that my man could drop 42 in the final closeout game of an NBA final because he had to. And again, people say, well, he didn't do this. He didn't shoot from here. He didn't shoot from there. It was all post up. It was all hook shots. Okay. Stop it then, right? I say it a million times. Stop it then. So I got Magic. If I'm starting a franchise in a 1-on-1, I'm picking Luka. I would say Luka's actually, if I'm being honest, I think Luka is more skilled. But I think every player is a little bit more skilled because they've learned and watched what everybody else has done. So of course they've got, as I know you don't like this term, but they got a deeper bag. But let me be very, very clear about something. And might say this for all three of these. Being more athletic and or more skilled doesn't make you a better player. And I'll use myself as an example. I'm an old man and I will go to the YMCA. I will go to LA Fitness. I will go and I'll play dudes that are 20 who are way more athletic than me, who can do every kind of dribble. But guess what? Guess who's knocking down the jimmies? Guess who's stealing the ball from them? You and me both, right? It's because it's not just about skill and athleticism. There's got to be some drive. There's got to be some fundamentals. There's so many other things that go into it. But anyways.
Well, you mentioned that before, Tom. Is Vince Carter a better athlete than Jordan?
Yeah, he is.
Is his bag deeper than Jordan's?
People want to fight me on that. They say, oh, he's not more. Yes, he is. He just nowhere near the player because of all that other stuff. So, All right. That was Luka. So, Luka Magic. We both got Luka winning the 1-on-1, but starting our franchise with Magic. This one's going to hurt me because these are like all time. If I made an all-time top 10 list of my favorite players to watch, I think both of these guys are on that list.
Already?
Yeah. I like him that much. I'm not afraid to say it. Like I have you've heard of you have a crush on a girl or you got a man crush. There's a guy you're like, oh, I really like. This is my basketball crush. My basketball crush is Ja Morant. So Ja Morant, Allen Iverson. Again, the influence of Allen Iverson is top 5 all time. He made people dress different, play their music loud, put cornrows in their hair, get tattoos. Like he literally influenced an entire generation. Like I see kids, I remember seeing like 5-6-year-old kids with the arm sleeve that he would wear, with their little spiky blonde hair. And I'm like, that's Allen Iverson.
You can make the argument, Tone, that pound for pound, he's the best little man ever in the NBA. That includes Calvin Murphy.
I would make that argument. Yeah,
you could definitely make the argument. Him, Calvin Murphy, Isiah Thomas. I remember the first time I saw Allen Iverson's crossover. The first time I saw it, I wasn't in awe of it like everybody else was, Tone, more than I was frightened because I was coming out of school at that time. And I was trying to become a professional basketball player. And I was thinking to myself, that looks dangerous. And I don't know if I want to get close to that.
I don't know that I've ever told you this story. I've said it on a live before. I was not only in awe and scared of it, I got killed by it because we played an exhibition, and I tell everybody the story. I tell you all. I'm not necessarily. I was fast. Like I ran track. I was on the relay team. Like I was not slow, but on the court compared to Iverson, he put a crossover on me where I was on him on a switch. I'm not supposed to be covering Iverson. Let's be honest. This was when he was at Georgetown, obviously. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, he crosses over, and I kid you not, Jay. Like I look back and he was like laying the ball up, and I'm like, where the hell he go?
You go.
And the second time, I always say this. Back then, I used to brag that I stole the ball from him, but I'm gonna admit to you because I'm honest with you, and I'm honest with the people who listen to the show. My hand was there, and he dribbled into it.
That's all it was.
That's all it was. And he dribbled the ball into my hand, and he took off, and the ball was here, and I was like, hey. And I threw it up to my forward. I took it, threw it up. We got a dunk, and I'm like, all right. For 10 years, I told people I stole the ball from Allen Iverson. No, he dribbled it into my hand. Let's be honest. But I mean, it was so lightning fast that it was. And sometimes he would just do it and he wouldn't go anywhere. He would just do it to keep you there, to be like, yeah, I'll do this whenever I want, and then he would do it and go by you. It was unbelievable.
I remember watching him, and I remember seeing that thing for the first time and thinking to myself, that's dangerous, and I don't know if I want to get close to that because you could get hurt.
I don't know that you can get close to it.
Right. I don't know if I want to get close.
My hamny's still a little hurt from that.
Yeah, that look like that's dangerous. Allen was so great in transition. He was so great with the basketball. His ability to score on anybody at any time. Okay, he wasn't as efficient. But when you talk about a guy that size, that athletic, right, that dynamic, and just for him to just be buckets on the regular. Yeah, he was a volume shooter, but last I checked, Tone, if you don't shoot, you don't score.
But also, listen, look at the roster around him, right? That team that let's be honest, for a guy that was what, $165 soaking wet.
So I give him 175. That's as far as I'm going. Okay, maybe. That's as far as I'm going.
Like he's 185 now, and you can see that he's put on some weight. Right. So like the team that he carried to the NBA Finals and stole a game from the Lakers.
Yeah.
That iconic kind of, remember that step over Tyronn Lue. Like everyone knows that moment.
Yeah.
That team wasn't a team that was filled with scorers. Like you had Mutombo, you didn't have guys that you thought of, these guys are buckets. So he had to score. He had to put up a bunch of shots.
Yes, he did.
Absolutely. And so, just watching him. So that's why I say pound for pound, I don't know that there was another player like.
Now, when I look at Ja Morant, I look at the athleticism, and that's what blows me away right from the beginning. His ability to just get over the top of the rim. Right. The other stuff looks like it's coming into form right now. His ability to score in the mid range, his ability to score in transition. We're talking about a guy who's only in year 3, so he's still figuring the game out. He's still figuring his game out. Right. So he's not there yet, but I can see what you're looking at. I'm not on your page completely, Tone, when it comes to him being one of my favorite players all time. But I'll tell you this, him being in Memphis, it almost reminds me of when James was in Cleveland. Tone, to be quite honest with you, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I couldn't care less about Cleveland if James wasn't there. I couldn't care less. But when he was there, I was in front of the TV every time Cleveland was on. Well, the same thing is going on with Memphis. And Memphis got a damn good team. Memphis doesn't have a good team. They got a damn good team. Yeah. But when they're on, I'm in front of the TV because I want to see him. He looks like somebody that's going to be box office. He looks like somebody that the NBA is looking at saying, we got to get Memphis on TV more. We need to have Memphis on TV more because we need to showcase him more because he looks like he could be one of the faces of the league moving forward.
So who you got? 1-on-1, Iverson, Ja Morant.
Iverson. And if I'm building my unit, I'm building it around Iverson.
I'm going to give you 3 answers. 1-on-1.
Don't tiptoe around me neither, Tone, because I smell a tiptoe. That's what I'm smelling.
No tiptoes at all. I'm straight. This is
okay.
Like I say, hit record right now because you're going to want to keep this.
Okay.
1-on-1, I'm taking Ja Morant. 2, I'm building my franchise around Ja Morant. And 3, I got Memphis in the NBA Finals this year.
What? What about Memphis puts them in the NBA Finals, Tone?
Ja Morant.
Well, it's bad enough that you're telling me that Ja Morant is a better one-on-one player than Allen Iverson. There's no way I'm letting you get away with that. Okay, we'll start there. But what about Memphis tells you Memphis is coming out the Western Conference this year. What about it? Start talking, Tone.
Okay, who are the top 4 seeds in the West? You got
Phoenix is at 1. Memphis is 2. Golden State is 3. Utah is 4.
Utah's 4. Do you trust Utah in the playoffs?
I think they've.
Rudy Gobert disappears, right? The Defensive Player of the Year disappears in the playoffs last year. You find ways. When I say disappears, teams find ways in a 7-game series to neutralize what he does. So I'm not worried about Utah. Golden State has question marks. I know Clay had a big game, and now everyone's like on Draymond's back, and everyone. Listen, there's some question marks there about their health and their ability. You know, how are they going to incorporate Wiseman too, who I know is kind of played in the G League and he's coming in. But who's Golden State's kryptonite? Your words.
Who is Golden State's kryptonite?
You said it 3 weeks ago. I hope you remember.
I don't remember what I said.
Oh, you don't remember? You don't remember saying Memphis just has their number?
I do. Yes, I did say that.
You sure did.
I did knock them. They knocked them out the play-in game last year. Now this is a different Golden State team now, Tom. Completely different Golden State team.
The other team is Phoenix. Where's Chris Paul?
He's inactive.
How many years has Chris Paul been in the NBA?
Since 2006.
How many times has he been healthy in the playoffs?
More than he hasn't been.
Once last year when they made it to the final. And he's hurt again right now. So am I worried about Phoenix? No. Am I worried about the bottom 4 teams?
They went to the finals last year, Tom, when he wasn't healthy.
He played. Right. If it wasn't for him coming back from, I think it was the shoulder or whatever it was.
Right.
I don't think Phoenix will have that run again. How many times?
Absolutely they will. With Chris Paul, no question about that, Tony. They got the most complete team.
I'm betting on him. I'm betting on the odds. I'm betting on the odds of him getting hurt. And if I have to pick Memphis or a hurt Phoenix team, I'm picking Memphis.
Wow. Okay.
I'm picking Memphis. I'm all in on this. You want to call it a hot take? I think it's.
That's what it sounds like.
You know what? Let's put it to a vote. So everybody in the chat, I'm going to post this right now on TikTok. Ja Morant or Allen Iverson, 1-on-1, or to start your franchise. Who you picking? I'm picking Ja Morant.
Man.
Jay's picking Iverson. All right.
I'm not picking that guy. And I love Ja Morant. No way am I going with Ja Morant over Iverson.
FYI, by the way, I want to go back this quickly since I brought up a poll. Our teams that we drafted, players 51 through 76, as of yesterday, I haven't checked today, the voting is 51-49 in favor of my team, but it's close. It's so close. But I will say this. You have a much more loyal following than me, because I had people in the comments say, I'm picking OG's team because it's OG. I'm like, hold on, man. Some people call me OG too. But no, yes, you've got some loyal people. So kudos. But I got by that much for now. It might have changed by now because literally, a couple of votes will swing the other direction. All right, the last one. The last one? Isiah, the original Isiah Thomas, Zeke. I have to just call him Zeke. I think that clarifies it between the other one. Zeke versus Trey Young.
Well, when I think about Trey Young, I think about a guy as a distributor. He's one of the better distributors in the game. And his game translates too, from college to the pros. Don't forget, Tom, he led the country in scoring and assists his first year at Oklahoma. He comes into the NBA. There was a point where he was in the top 3 in the game in points. And I think he leads the NBA in assists since Chris Paul has gone down. So his game translates to the pros. And him being small, that hasn't affected his game at all. He can shoot the long ball. He gets to the basket with the best of them, right? He playmakes with the best of them. He's shown how big of a heart that he has. You saw what he did when he went into New York last year and basically knocked that New York Knicks team out of the playoffs. But when I think about a guy like Isiah Thomas, who they built that unit around him, just like Atlanta is building that unit around Trey Young. They built that unit around him, and he was basically the leader of the bad boys. He was the leader of that team. Yeah. But that overshadowed how good he really was. Isaiah's ability to get to the basket, how tough Isiah was, right? How clutch Isiah was when you get into big games and how he was saving teams. I mean, I watched Isiah score 16 points in a minute and a half. That hasn't happened since he did that, right? Isaiah's ability Isaiah's been that guy from day one. Tone. When I say day one, I mean he was that guy in the 8th grade. He was the best player in college, right? He was the best point guard, and he was arguably the best point guard in the pros. Trey Young has been that guy, but not at the level of Isiah. Now, when I think about a one-on-one guy, I think Isiah Thomas, you can make the argument that he's a better one-on-one player than Trey Young. And if I'm building a unit, I'm building it around Isiah.
If I were to ask you, who's the better long ball shooter? Like if I'm talking 3-point shooting percentage, who do you got, Trey or Isiah?
I would have to say Isiah.
And the
reason why I say Isiah, because he doesn't shoot at the volume that Trey Young shoots.
Yeah,
that would explain why. I
was actually surprised. I really thought it was going to be Trey. Free throw shooting. Who has the higher free throw shooting percentage?
Zeke
too. I was really, because I was ready to jump on and be like, Trey's a better scorer. Trey's a better rebounder for a little guy, which he is, like statistically. Trey's a better passer, like in terms of assists. Trey's a better shooter. I wanted to throw that up, and I was gonna be like, and percentages, and then I looked, I'm like, oh, and I know volume dictates some of that too, but I was really surprised. I think Trey is a better scorer than Isiah, and I think in a one-on-one, I actually think Trey beats Isiah. But if I'm starting a team, I want scoring, I want leadership, I want defense. Trey gets like 1.5 check marks there, whereas Isiah gets a solid 3. He could do, like, he didn't score a lot, but he did when he had to, right? Like he could average 20 plus a game, and he did on certain occasions when he had to. When, I think they're both good shooters. When they both need to hit big shots, they both can knock down big shots. But when I think of, well, who could take a team and be like, hey, this is how we're playing now, and just do that kind of, I haven't seen it from Trey yet, but again, he's young. So I still got it. And then if I'm like, okay, but I need a stop. Who do I trust more to get a stop? I'm going to say I don't trust Trey, but who do I trust more, Trey or Isiah? And that's where I'm going, Isiah. And I'm not a fan of Isiah because I think the things he's, as a person, I think what he did to like the Raptors, the Knicks, like just, the things that he's done in his life outside of basketball, I'm just like, nah, I don't know how I feel about this guy. He flip-flops on topics. But if I'm just talking about a basketball player, you'd be hard-pressed to I don't think he gets enough respect of how good of a basketball player he was, because he's a top 5 point guard all time. And people they might even have them in their top 5, but they'd never bring him up. Isiah Thomas is one of the greatest point guards ever. And so that's who I'm starting my franchise.
It is.
And I love Trey Young. Just let me put that out there too. But and you have Trey, you have Isiah even winning a one-on-one matchup. You think he just locks him down defensively?
Well, I remember, and even though Isiah wasn't a great defender, he was a product of that team that he was on.
Yeah, but he was a tough defender.
Yeah, I think that he deals with Trey more than Trey deals with him.
All right, here we go. It's time for Mail Drop.
Mail Drop.
One. Tom Brady unretires. Is that good or bad? I'm not saying I told you so.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Let's call it what it is. Yes, you are. And you did. You were absolutely right, Tone. I thought he was over. I did. And the more I think about it, the more it sounded to me like somebody pushing you to go to this school or to take this job. You really don't want to take this job. You absolutely don't want to go to this school, but you want me to do it. So, okay, I'll go. Even though I really want to go here, or I really want to work here. Charles Barkley has one of the best sayings, and that is, we don't quit because we want to. We quit because we can't play no more. And that's a fact.
Look how many players you see in really awkward looking jerseys. They're like, I don't believe Hakeem played in Toronto. I don't believe Ewing played for the Magic. Whatever those things were. Sean Kemp's a Cavalier. Jordan as a Wizard. Yeah.
These guys, if you still got it and it's still in you, not just my game, Tone, but if it's because you can still have it, but it ain't in you no more. Let me
ask you this before we get to Tom Brady. You get a call today. You're where? Miami. The Heat call you up today, and they're like, "Hey, we need a guy on a 10-day. You come down and play."
If I could still play, I wouldn't think twice about it.
Not for a second. I'm jumping.
I wouldn't. If I could still play, I wouldn't think twice.
When you have that love for the game, you want to play.
Absolutely.
Don't forget. Let's not forget. Where did Brady finish in MVP voting last year?
For 2, man. So we're talking about a guy who still got it. And not only does he still have it, he still got that fire in his belly, right? There are guys who I just don't want to play no more, not because my skill set has been diminished, but, I just don't want to play anymore. I just don't have it in me anymore.
I think JJ Redick came out, I want to say a couple of weeks ago, where he said, look, teams are still calling me. Teams are calling me in the offseason. He goes, but I'd be cheating the game because I know what goes into it, and I'm not prepared to put that effort in. I don't think you're going to have that from Tom Brady. Right. You saw the fire in Tom Brady last season. It's not like it's gone. Right. So is it good or bad that he's coming back, though? I guess is really what the person is asking here. So
well, the question. It's good that he's coming back because we actually get to see him finish what he started. Because if you think about it, Tone, have we seen the decline of Tom Brady?
No, we're still waiting.
Right. That's what I'm talking. We haven't seen Tom fall off. And this is year 23 that we're in, right? We haven't seen that. So on the one hand, it's good that he's coming back. On the other side to that, Tone, that house that I bought in Carolina because I'm going to play for the Panthers because I think we're going to win the division? Well, I got to sell it now. You know why? Yeah. Here's this dude.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about like Namath on the Rams. Like we're talking about a guy like still has it.
Right.
And I think he came back too because it's interesting the timing. So when you look at the NFC, and I've said this many times, the Rams win the Super Bowl. But now the pieces, right? They're over the cap. Some of the pieces are starting to kind of walk away. It's still Matthew Stafford. It's not like it's, peak Peyton Manning. It's Matthew Stafford is their quarterback. So are the Rams beatable? Yeah.
They are.
Seattle trades away Russell Wilson. Well, now they're rebuilding. Your 49ers, no offense, are starting with Trey Lance. You don't know what you're going to get from that kid.
No,
Arizona, I hear some turmoil. I hear some rumblings out of Kyler Murray. So, okay, because I started with them because that's the toughest division. I look at the NFC North and I'm like, all right, well, there's Rodgers, really nothing else. And he's going to have to lose now. Devontae Adams is saying, well, I'm not playing on a franchise tag. So there's a chink in that armor up there too. I look at the NFC East. I've never been worried about the NFC East. I look back at my division. So I'm sitting at home on my couch, or actually I'm having a talk with Ronaldo over there watching a soccer game. And I look and I say, well, Carolina's nothing to worry about right now. The Saints don't have a quarterback. Atlanta,
call it what it is, Tone. Matt Ryan is washed. Say it, Tone. Say it with me for the people in the cheap seats. Matt Ryan is washed.
I'll let you say it. Atlanta's nothing to be feared. So I could go back to Tampa Bay. Matt Ryan is washed. I could go back to Tampa Bay, win that division, and really only have two teams I'm kind of worried about, which is the Rams and the Packers. And I can be back in another Super Bowl, my second in 3 years, because I don't have to go through that crazy AFC gauntlet that has 10 good teams. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I should go back. Maybe I should go back. Right? Because there's one less team now that Russell Wilson's going to have to worry about. So I don't blame him. So I think it's a good thing that he's coming back. I think it's a great thing that he's coming back. Why not? Like I said, he was second in MVP voting. Let the man play. Let Tampa have another run at it. I'm happy he's coming back. And I said he was, so I told you so.
You did say that. Yes, you did.
Now, I thought he was going to San Francisco.
I thought he was over.
I'll admit that. I didn't think he was coming back to Tampa Bay. But
I thought he was over.
Bruce Arians called him back and said, hey, dude, I'm sorry. I was a jerk. Let's get back together. And they kissed and made up. We know Tom Brady likes to kiss. He kissed and made up. All right. The play-in tournament. That's the one that I'm not passionate about. The next two. The play-in tournament in the NBA. Is it good or bad?
Tone, for the last time, and for the people in the cheap seats, we already have a play-in tournament. It's 82 games. After 82 games, if you can't get into the playoffs, you are not a playoff team. Well, you got teams at the end of the season that may tank, and you give teams more incentive with adding two teams into a play-in tournament, not to tank, and that way you don't diminish the quality. Well, actually you do, because if you're a 10th place team, you're still not a playoff team. So when I look at the landscape of the NBA right now, right, I look at the Lakers and what they've been doing. I don't think the Lakers are a playoff team. I do not. But they're going to be fortunate enough to play in the play-in tournament. And they may win a play-in game and may actually make the playoffs. But ultimately, I don't think that's a playoff team. I look at everything that they've done, how bad they've been across the board. I think they're 8 or 9 games under 500. That is not a playoff team. I am not a fan of the play-in tournament. I think it's a waste of time, and I think it's a wash.
I know that I can't get this done. I don't have this much pull. I don't have this much influence. However, if I could, if I had the infinity stones and I could snap my fingers, I would make 0 people watch the playing games as a message to the NBA when they look at their TV ratings, because that's what they hold so dear, and see 0 people watch the playing games. That's how much I hate, and I was about to cuss and say the F word, the effing playing games. They're dumb. They're stupid. They're garbage. They're trash. I don't know what other word I can use to express how much I hate playing games, because if you're the 9th or 10th seed, you are not a playoff team. Stop it. Stop it. Now, I even understand why they did it in the bubble, shortened season. It was broken in half. It was like all kind of weird stuff. I get it. I understood why they did it. Leave it there. Leave it in that bubble where it belongs. Because let me give you a scenario, and I'm gonna give you 2. I'm gonna give you the East and the West. So in the East, you got Toronto as the 7th seed. 3 games behind them are the Brooklyn Nets. 4 games behind them are the Atlanta Hawks, and 4.5 games behind them are the Charlotte Hornets. In any other season, Atlanta, who is 1 game behind Brooklyn, would be busting their tails to try and make up that 1 game against Brooklyn to get into the playoffs, knocking Brooklyn out where they belong based on how they've played. Here's what's gonna happen, or could happen. The Toronto Raptors will play the Brooklyn Nets for the 7th seed. And with everyone healthy, now it's in Toronto, so maybe Kyrie Irving won't be able to play, but let's forget that for a second. Toronto plays the Brooklyn Nets. If everyone's healthy, KD's healthy, Simmons is playing, Kyrie's healthy, can the Brooklyn Nets beat Toronto in a game? Of course they can. So now Brooklyn becomes the 7th seed. Atlanta and Charlotte. To make my scenario clearer, I'm going to have Charlotte win that game. They then play Toronto for the 8th seed, correct?
Correct.
So Toronto plays Charlotte. Can Charlotte get hot and win a game against Toronto?
One game, yes.
Absolutely. So now Toronto, let's say will have who knows how many wins, but right now it's 38-30. So we'll count it. Let's say the season ended today. So you have the Raptors now out of the playoffs, who were 4.5 games up on the 10th seeded team, looking up at the playoffs. Now they're out. Let me give you the West, and let me look how dumb this is. So you got Minnesota and the Clippers.
That's what I mean, man.
The Minnesota is 4.5 games up on the Clippers. They're 10 games up on the Lakers. 10. They're 11 games up on New Orleans.
Tone, this is dumb, man. This is actually starting to get my blood pressure up. These scenarios. This is so.
This is what.
Oh my God, this is making me nuts. How you 10 games up on a team, and we talking about we got to play them to get into the playoffs?
So the Clippers, can the Clippers beat Minnesota in a game? Sure can. So then Minnesota has to go in and play the winner of the Lakers and the Saints. The Lakers are the Pelicans.
Right.
So I'm going to take my Lakers. I want my Lakers in the playoffs, but not like this. So now Minnesota plays the Lakers. The Lakers, or maybe it's who cares? Maybe
who they're 10 games ahead of, by the way, Tone. Don't leave that part out.
10 games ahead of the
Lakers.
This is dumb. Can LeBron James drop 50 and beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in a game?
Or 40.
Of course he can.
Yes, he can.
Of course he can.
Yes, he
can. So now the Lakers are in the playoffs. Minnesota is out. And Minnesota had a 10-game lead. Why play the season? Why play the season?
This is dumb.
I'm up by 10 games. Why play the season?
This is dumb.
So the Lakers, hey, well, let's just coast. We don't need to worry about it. Minnesota, the only hope Minnesota has is like, well, let me get 1 game because they're a game and a half behind Denver. Let me catch Denver.
And add that to the fact, Tone. Add that to the fact that Sacramento is not going to catch the 10 seed because they're 6 games behind them. So we basically chilling here.
Yeah.
This is nuts right here.
Hold on. Let me paint a different scenario. What if Minnesota passes Denver because they're only a game and a half back, and now Denver, with the reigning MVP, possible 2-time MVP, loses the play-in game to the Clippers and then to the Lakers, and they're out of the playoffs and they're 10 games up.
They out.
Can you imagine?
Come on, man. This would be a nightmare.
Like if I'm Toronto right now, if I'm Toronto right now, I'm looking at Cleveland. I'm like, I'm a game back of Cleveland. We need to do, and to the Raptors' credit, they've just gone through and beaten the Suns. Now the Lakers wasn't a big game. And I forget who else they beat. They beat another good team right before the Suns. But anyways, I forget. I don't know their schedule. But how crazy is that? How can you lose one game to a team that you're 10 games ahead of, and now you're not in the playoffs?
Well, here's the flip side to that, Tone, because you'll get a devil's advocate that'll tell you, well, that's the excitement of like March Madness, where there's one game, which is the exact same reason.
March Madness.
Which is exactly the same logic that I have with March Madness, where you got a team that's 11-17 and 3-12 in the conference, and they get hot and they end up winning the conference championship. You're not a tournament team. You are not. There's no reason. If you can't at least be 500 in your league, you are not a tournament team. Get this 4-12 team out the tournament. You shouldn't be in a tournament. No way. Absolutely not. So then you bring that to the NBA, where you got the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are 10 games up on the Los Angeles Lakers, who may have to play them in a play-in tournament in order to make the playoffs and be out after the Lakers, who are atrocious, right? 2 nights ago, the Toronto Raptors come to Los Angeles and smoke them. I'm so sick. Tone, you got my blood pressure.
If you're gonna yell, you're gonna have to turn your volume down, my friend.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Tone. This play-in tournament.
I thought I was thinking about the play-in tournament.
This play-in tournament is dumb, man. It's dumb.
I agree. I
it's
agree
dumb.
100%.
I'm sorry, Tone.
100%. 100%. You know, it's. I'm gonna do a little Jordan LeBron because people expect me to do it. So here I go. You know that people tell me that the NBA put in the shorter portion of the 3-point line to help Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what year they did it?
I think it was in 94, 93. That was the year he was retired.
It was 95. It was the year he was retired.
Yeah.
So how is that for Jordan if it was the year he was retired? So could I then say that the NBA put in the play-in tournament to help LeBron James?
Do that. Yeah, we can make that argument. Yeah.
By their logic.
Now, we're going to do everything that we can to keep him in, because I do remember, Tony, in the 18-19 season when they didn't make the playoffs, ratings were down 48%. So the NBA needs James in the playoffs. No question about that. However, it's not at this.
All right. Maybe they should stop. Forget about James for now. Let's go with John Morant. He's going to the finals this year. Let's make him the star of the league. All right. Last one. Celtics retire Kevin Garnett's number.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, was it deserved? And how do you feel about numbers being retired as a whole?
When I think about guys' numbers getting retired, I think about all-time greats. I mean, Kevin Garnett was there for 6 years. In 6 years, was he an all-time great for the Celtics? I mean, I know they won that NBA championship in 2008, right? But he did win Defensive Player of the Year that year. But in the 6 years that he played there, they went to the NBA Finals twice. He went to the Eastern Conference Championship 3 times, I think. Was he an all-time great? I mean, I think he made the All-Star team 4 times. When I think about the all-time greats with the Celtics, Havlicek, Bird, Russell, McHale, I don't know if Kevin Garnett was there long enough. That's not to say that he wasn't great. And this is the same guy, by the way, Tone, who didn't attend his jersey retirement in Minnesota, which, by the way, he's the best player in the history of that franchise. Mm-hmm. And he didn't even show up to that. But he's sitting front row with the Celtics.
Center court.
He's sitting front row with the Celtics, and he's an all-time great. Now, in terms of retiring jerseys, I'm a little different than you, Tone. When you retire a jersey, that means that we don't see this number again, right? And I'm in favor of that. If you hanging up my jersey, there is no, I want to ask if I can wear this jersey. No, there's a reason why this jersey.
The number's gone. Yeah. 100%.
The number is retired. You don't get to ask this person, can I have that number? No, the number is retired, right? That is it. Now, I'm a fan of retired jerseys. Now, there's some people who they're not really that big a fan of it, but I like it.
So let's start with the first part is, did Kevin Garnett deserve to have his number retired by the Celtics? And the answer is no, he didn't. He's not an all-time great Celtic. 6 years. I'm sorry. The Celtics are a storied franchise. 6 seasons. I don't care if he won 6 championships. Oh, okay, maybe if he won 6 championships.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Maybe if he won 6 championships. But winning 1 for a franchise that has 17 that have players like Bird and Pierce and Havlicek and Russell. You didn't even bring up Russell.
I didn't bring up Russell.
That's so disrespectful to Bird and Russell and heck, even Pierce for the time that they put into building up and making that franchise great. Like, how can you retire Kevin Garnett's number? Minnesota, I understand. But I also understand Kevin Garnett wanting to be part of Celtics lore versus Timberwolves lore.
Let me ask you this question, Tom, really quick. What did Kevin Garnett do in half his career to have him mentioned with Bird with the Celtics? What did he do in half the time that Bird was there to be mentioned in the same breath with Bird?
If you're going to be a Celtic great, you have to do two things: multiple MVPs or multiple championships. Multiple times where you're the best player in the league. He's not there. He didn't do enough with the Celtics. I'm not saying Kevin Garnett isn't an all-time great player. He absolutely is an all-time great player. Mm-hmm. Offensively, defensively, just his drive, his everything, all-time great. He's just not an all-time great Celtic. I'll put it this way: I don't have LeBron as an all-time great Laker.
No,
you can't be a Laker for 3 seasons and miss the playoffs, win a championship, and get knocked out of the first round. So, all-time great Laker. Mm-hmm. No, that might be, no offense, that might be an all-time great Cav. That's not an all-time great Laker, right? And there's a difference. And it's, again, all-time great player, not for that team.
Take it a step further than that, Tone. If they miss the playoffs this year, that'll be twice in 4 years they miss the playoffs.
Exactly. Is that an all-time great Laker? Can you put him in that list? No. When you have Kareem and Kobe and Magic and West and Baylor, you're not. You're not. I don't even have Wilt high on that because his best years weren't with the Lakers. They were with the with the Sixers and the Warriors, whatever.
Philadelphia Warriors, yeah.
Now, when it comes to retiring numbers as a whole, I don't like retiring numbers as a whole. I think unless you did something extraordinarily huge, that has never been done before, never will be done again. I'm all for the NBA retiring the number 23 and saying, Jordan, LeBron, we're doing a ceremony for you guys together because let's be honest, you're the top two. This is the one thing everybody agrees about. They disagree on the order, but everybody, I think, agrees they're 1-2 in the history of the NBA.
James and Jordan. Yes,
so for them to say, okay, Jordan, LeBron, listen, you guys did this number proud. You have 10 championships, 16 NBA finals, however many MVPs together. You globalized the game. You've done everything. We're retiring the number 23 from the league. I'm all for that. But Kevin Garnett played 6 seasons for the Celtics. Let's retire his number. In Toronto, Vince Carter played, did what? Don't get me wrong. He put them on the map. He didn't win anything. Let's retire his number in Toronto. Let's retire Rudy Tomjanovich, I can't even say his last name, has his number retired for the Rockets? Huh? Why? Can you tell me why his number's retired?
Hey, Rudy Tomjanovich made the All-Star team, I think, 6 times with the Rockets.
Retire his number. Yeah. So
now,
I like the Ring of Honor. I like putting the person's name, their number up there and honoring them. But to say no one can ever wear your number again, you were that good.
Right, man, but here's the thing you got to remember too, Tone. When you're talking about retiring jerseys, some standards are different than others. So Ilgauskas got his jersey retired with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So his now we're talking about the all-time leading rebounder in Cleveland Cavaliers history. So that matters. Udonis Haslem is going to get his jersey retired with the Miami Heat. So that stuff matters, Tone. Longevity matters. I know that doesn't resonate with you, but when you talk about what you did with this franchise and what you meant to this franchise, those things absolutely matter. Now, if you only played here, the Miami Heat retired Shaq jersey. Shaq only played in Miami 3.5 years, Tom. Just so you know. He only played in Miami 3.5 years. So even though he did bring him a championship, he absolutely did that. And he finished second in the league in MVP votes. No question about that.
Incredible. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
But 3.5 years?
I feel like, I don't know. I feel like you need to, listen, I feel the same way about the Hall of Fame. I just think too many people get in. I think too many numbers get retired. I think we're way too quick to give people their, to give them kudos and give them ceremonies just because we need something to do. And that's why I don't like it.
Shaq absolutely, he deserved that statue outside the Staples Center. No question about that.
As a Laker, I agree. As a Laker, I agree.
No doubt about that. Same thing in Orlando.
Should we retire Shaq's number in Cleveland?
No.
What about Ben Wallace? He's an incredible player. Should we retire his number in Cleveland?
No.
I just think it's much. All right. So that's it. We have a special guest. Our next episode, check us out. Woody Page from Around the Horn in the Gazette. You know him from also maybe the Denver Post. We're going to talk some Broncos, a big trade with Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about the Nuggets and their chances in the NBA final. And what the heck's up with that chalkboard behind him? We're going to talk about all that stuff on the next Fluent and Chill. But until then,
take it light, but take it.